The California sun was blazing that afternoon, casting long shadows across the Walmart parking lot. Cristiano had been in Los Angeles for just a few days, taking a rare break from his hectic football schedule. Most people would expect a world-famous athlete to send someone shopping or hit up fancy stores, but not him. He enjoyed these simple moments of everyday life. His black SUV pulled into the parking spot, drawing a few curious glances. Dressed in a comfortable white t-shirt that hugged his athletic frame and well-worn jeans, he looked nothing like the glamorous football superstar plastered across billboards worldwide. Just another guy running errands, or so he wanted to appear. Grabbing a shopping cart, Cristiano pushed it through the automatic doors. The cool air of the store was a welcome relief from the outside heat. He pulled out a small handwritten list, a habit from his childhood when money was tight and every purchase mattered. Some things never change, even when you've become a global icon. First stop, household supplies. He needed some basic cleaning stuff for his temporary rental. His eyes scanned the shelves, moving with the same precision he used to navigate a football field. A slight smile played on his lips. This was his version of relaxation. No cameras, no fans, just a moment of absolute normalcy. An elderly woman nearby dropped her shopping basket, and without hesitation, Cristiano rushed over to help. He carefully picked up her fallen items, speaking softly and ensuring she was okay. The woman looked up, momentarily stunned. Was this really happening? The world-famous footballer helping her like any kind-hearted neighbor would. "Are you all right, ma'am?" he asked, his Portuguese accent softening the words. She nodded, a grateful smile spreading across her wrinkled face. Just another small moment of connection. As he continued shopping, Cristiano moved through the aisles with a sense of quiet confidence. He wasn't trying to be noticed, but there was something about him, a presence that naturally drew attention. A few people did double takes, whispering and pointing, but he remained focused on his task. The cleaning supplies aisle was a maze of colorful bottles and cleaning solutions. He carefully compared prices, reading labels with the same concentration he used to analyze football strategies. A young employee stocking shelves nearby watched him curiously, unsure whether to approach or keep his distance. Cristiano picked up a bottle of all-purpose cleaner, turning it in his hands. He remembered his mother, back in Portugal, always keeping their small home spotless despite limited resources. These simple tasks connected him to his roots, no matter how far he'd come. His phone buzzed, a message from his agent about an upcoming charity event. But right now, in this moment, he was just another shopper. No designer clothes, no entourage, just a man doing his weekly shopping. As he moved towards the household section, something caught his eye, a display of kitchen items. He paused, picking up a set of plain white plates. Practical. Simple. The kind of things that make a house feel like a home. His mind wandered to his family, to the journey that brought him from a small island in Portugal to shopping in a California Walmart. Little did he know, this ordinary shopping trip was about to become anything but ordinary. The next few moments would test his character, his patience, and his understanding of humanity in ways he never expected. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The typical Walmart soundtrack of beeping cash registers and shuffling feet continued around him. And Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the most recognized faces in the world, continued his shopping, completely unaware of the challenge that awaited him just around the corner. The quiet hum of the store suddenly felt different. Cristiano sensed a shift in the atmosphere, that subtle tension that creeps up when someone's watching you a little too closely. He'd experienced this feeling countless times before, not just on football fields around the world, but in moments that cut deeper than any sporting challenge. A store employee appeared at the end of the aisle, his posture stiff and unwelcoming. Cristiano continued browsing, hoping the feeling would pass. But some moments have a way of demanding attention, like a brewing storm that can't be ignored. The employee approached, footsteps deliberate and heavy. Cristiano could feel the weight of the gaze, not the admiring look of a fan, but something entirely different. Something that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. "Can I help you?" The words came out more like an accusation than a genuine offer of assistance. Cristiano turned, meeting the employee's eyes with a calm that came from years of facing challenges both on and off the field. He'd dealt with tough defenders, hostile crowds, and countless obstacles. A random encounter in a Walmart wasn't going to rattle him. "Just picking up some cleaning supplies," he responded, his accent adding a soft melody to the words. He held up the bottle of cleaner, a simple gesture of transparency. But something was off. The employee's eyes narrowed, scanning Cristiano from head to toe. It wasn't a look of curiosity or recognition. It was a look that suggested he didn't belong, that he was somehow out of place. "This section is for staff only right now," the employee said, his tone sharp and unwelcoming. Cristiano knew this game. He'd seen it before, the subtle ways people try to make others feel small, unwelcome, like they don't fit in. Memories flooded his mind. The young boy from a poor neighborhood in Portugal who was told he was too small, too different to become a football star. The countless times he'd been underestimated, pushed aside, told he didn't belong. But he'd always found a way to prove them wrong. His hand gripped the shopping cart a little tighter, not out of anger, but out of a deep-seated resilience that had carried him through life's toughest moments. The conversation was changing. What started as a simple shopping trip was becoming something more. A test. A moment that would reveal more about human nature than any carefully crafted interview or social media post ever could. Around them, the Walmart continued its usual rhythm. Shoppers moved past, some oblivious, some stealing curious glances. The fluorescent lights continued their steady hum, casting a harsh light on this unexpected encounter. Cristiano took a breath. He'd faced pressure in packed stadiums with millions watching. He'd scored game-winning goals, broken records, become a global icon. But sometimes the real challenges come in the most unexpected places, like a random aisle in a California Walmart on an ordinary afternoon. The employee stood there waiting. His stance suggested this was about more than just a misunderstanding. This was a moment charged with something deeper, assumptions, prejudices that run far beneath the surface of a seemingly ordinary interaction. Cristiano knew he had a choice. He could get angry. He could call out the obvious disrespect. Or he could do something entirely different, something that might actually make a difference. His mind raced back to his childhood, to the times his mother taught him about respect, about rising above difficult situations, about seeing the humanity in everyone, even those who might not see yours. The moment stretched between them. The store continued its background noise, beeping scanners, shuffling feet, the distant chatter of shoppers. But here, in this aisle, time seemed to stand still. A challenge was brewing. Not the kind you'd see on a football field, but something far more complex. A test of character, of patience, of understanding. And Cristiano Ronaldo, a man who'd risen from the simplest of beginnings to become a global icon, was about to show that true strength isn't just about how you play the game, it's about how you handle unexpected moments of tension. The tension grew thicker with each passing second. Those seemingly innocent words, "This section is for staff only," carried a weight that went far beyond simple store policy. Cristiano felt the underlying message, the subtle undertone that suggested he didn't belong. He'd been here before, not exactly in this Walmart aisle, but in moments that challenged his sense of self. Growing up in Madeira, a small island in Portugal, he knew what it was like to be underestimated. People had always tried to tell him what he couldn't do, where he didn't belong. The employee's eyes narrowed, moving from Cristiano's face to his cart, then back again. It wasn't a look of simple suspicion. There was something more. A mix of judgment and discomfort that spoke volumes without saying a word. "Is there a problem?" Cristiano asked, his voice calm but firm. Years of interviews, of handling press conferences, of managing global expectations had taught him the power of measured words. The employee shifted uncomfortably. Around them, the store continued its usual rhythm, shoppers moving, children asking for treats, the soft peeping of cash registers. But here, in this small space, a different conversation was unfolding. Cristiano thought about his journey, from a kid who couldn't afford proper football boots to becoming a global icon. He remembered the nights his mother worked extra shifts, the sacrifices his family made. Every challenge had been an opportunity to prove something, not just to others, but to himself. "I'm just shopping," he continued, holding up the cleaning supplies, a simple act, something millions do every day without a second thought. But today, it felt different. Today, it felt like a statement. The employee's discomfort grew more apparent. Whispered comments began to float around, subtle, but loud enough to catch Cristiano's attention. He'd heard such comments before, in stadiums, in airports, in moments when people forgot he was more than just a face on a billboard. But this was different. This was personal. This was happening right here, in an everyday place where people should feel welcome. Cristiano took a deep breath. He could feel the old anger rising. The anger of the young boy who was told he was too poor, too different. But he'd learned something important over the years. Anger rarely solves anything. Understanding does. "I'd like to finish my shopping," he said, his voice steady, not aggressive, not confrontational, just clear. The nearby shoppers began to notice. Some looked confused. Others seemed uncomfortable. A few recognized him, their eyes widening with a mix of surprise and anticipation. This wasn't just about shopping anymore. This was about something bigger. About respect. About seeing people for who they are, not what they look like or where they come from. Cristiano thought about his family, about his journey from a small island to global stadiums, about the countless times he'd been told he couldn't, shouldn't, wouldn't, and yet here he was. The employee seemed to realize he was dealing with someone who wouldn't be easily dismissed. Cristiano's confidence wasn't arrogance. It was the quiet assurance of someone who knew his worth, who understood that true strength comes from dignity, not confrontation. Around him, the store seemed to hold its breath. Shoppers moved slower. The background noise felt muted. Everyone seemed to sense that something significant was happening. Cristiano had faced challenges on football fields around the world. He'd scored goals that seemed impossible. He'd broken records that people thought could never be broken. But sometimes, the real victories happen in the most unexpected places, like a random aisle in a Walmart on an ordinary afternoon. The moment stretched between them, the employee, the world-famous footballer, and the simple reality of a shopping trip that was about to become something much more significant. Little did anyone know this encounter was just beginning, and Cristiano was about to show that true character isn't about how loud you can shout, but how carefully you can listen. The silence felt heavy. Cristiano knew this moment was about more than just a shopping trip. It was a crossroads, a chance to respond in a way that could either escalate the tension or create understanding. He thought about his younger self, the kid from a small Portuguese island who had to fight for every opportunity. Those memories weren't just about football. They were about resilience, about proving yourself when the world seemed stacked against you. "I'd like to understand," Cristiano said softly, his voice cutting through the tension. It wasn't a challenge. It was an invitation. The employee looked surprised. Most people would have gotten angry, would have demanded to speak to a manager, would have made a scene. But Cristiano had learned long ago that true strength isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. Around them, the store seemed to pause. Shoppers nearby slowed their movements, sensing something significant was happening. An elderly woman near the produce section stopped mid-apple selection. A young couple with a shopping cart full of groceries turned slightly, ears perking up. Cristiano set down the cleaning supplies he was holding. A simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. He wasn't here to fight. He was here to connect. "Is there something bothering you?" he asked, his accent adding a gentle warmth to the words. "I'm just here to do some shopping, like anyone else." The employee shifted uncomfortably. The confident football star wasn't following the script he'd expected. There was no anger, no confrontation, just a genuine desire to understand. Memories flooded Cristiano's mind. The countless times he'd been judged, misunderstood. The journey from a small island to global stadiums. The years of proving people wrong, not through argument, but through action. He remembered his mother's words, how she taught him that everyone has a story. That understanding is more powerful than anger. That respect can break down walls faster than any confrontation. The store's fluorescent lights seemed to dim slightly, focusing on this unexpected moment. The background noise of beeping scanners and shuffling feet became a distant hum. "I'm just trying to buy some cleaning supplies," Cristiano repeated, his voice calm. "Is there a problem with that?" Something in his tone, part vulnerability, part strength, seemed to catch the employee off guard. This wasn't the reaction he'd expected. No anger, no aggression, just a simple human connection. Other shoppers were watching now. Some recognized the world-famous footballer. Others were just curious about this unexpected interaction. But everyone could sense something special was happening. Cristiano thought about his life's journey, about the millions of people who had watched him play, about the kids who looked up to him. This moment was bigger than just a shopping trip. It was a chance to show what real strength looks like. The employee's confident stance began to waver. The judgmental look started to crack. Something was happening that he hadn't anticipated. "I'm just doing my job," the employee mumbled, but the words lacked the earlier conviction. Cristiano smiled, not a mocking smile, but a genuine, understanding smile. The kind that says, "I see you. I hear you. We're both human." Around him, the Walmart continued its daily rhythm. But in this moment, something special was unfolding. A lesson in humanity, in respect, in understanding. Little did anyone know, this encounter was about to become something much more than a simple shopping trip. It was about to become a moment that could change perspectives, break down barriers, and show the power of genuine human connection. The tension began to dissolve like morning mist under the warmth of the sun, and Cristiano Ronaldo, the world-famous footballer, stood at the center, not as a global icon, but simply as a human being. The quiet tension of the moment was suddenly interrupted by the sound of quick footsteps. A store manager appeared, clipboard in hand, sensing something was off about the situation unfolding in the cleaning supplies aisle. His eyes darted between Cristiano and the employee, taking in the scene. Years of retail experience had taught him to read situations quickly. This wasn't a typical customer interaction. "Is everything okay here?" the manager asked, his voice a careful blend of professional concern and genuine curiosity. Cristiano took a deep breath. He'd been in high-pressure situations before, millions watching him on football fields, cameras capturing every move. But this felt different. This was real life, stripped of all the glamour and spotlights. The employee shifted uncomfortably, his earlier confidence now replaced by a visible unease. The recognition was dawning. This wasn't just any customer. This was a global icon standing in the middle of their store, dealing with what seemed like an uncomfortable situation. "I'm simply trying to complete my shopping," Cristiano explained, his accent adding a gentle melody to the words. He held up the cleaning supplies, a simple gesture of innocence and transparency. The manager looked confused. Something didn't add up. Why was one of his employees creating tension with a customer who was doing nothing more than browsing the shelves? Around them, the store had become a stage. Other shoppers pretended to browse nearby, ears perked, eyes stealing glances. An older woman near the produce section paused her apple selection. A young couple stopped their cart, sensing something significant was happening. Cristiano thought about his journey. From a small island in Portugal to global stadiums, he learned that true strength wasn't about confrontation. It was about understanding, about creating moments of connection. The manager stepped closer, professional instinct kicking in. "Sir, can you tell me what happened?" Cristiano appreciated the direct approach. No assumptions, no jumping to conclusions, just a simple request to understand the situation. "I was shopping," he explained calmly, "and your employee suggested I didn't belong in this section. I'm not sure why." The words were simple, but they carried a weight of experience. Of countless moments where he'd been judged, misunderstood. The employee's confidence was crumbling. The bravado that had fueled the earlier confrontation was melting away under the manager's steady gaze. Shoppers were fully paying attention now. Some recognized the world-famous footballer. Others were just curious about the unfolding drama. But everyone could sense something important was happening right here, between the cleaning supplies and the household items. The manager's face changed. A mix of confusion, concern, and growing understanding. This wasn't just a simple misunderstanding. This was something deeper. A moment that revealed more about human nature than any carefully crafted statement could. "I apologize," the manager said, turning to Cristiano. "This is absolutely not how we treat our customers." The words hung in the air. Simple, direct, but loaded with meaning. Cristiano's mind drifted to his childhood, to the times his mother taught him about respect, about seeing the humanity in everyone, about rising above difficult moments. The fluorescent lights of the store seemed to dim slightly, focusing on this unexpected moment of connection. The background noise of beeping scanners and shuffling feet became a distant hum. This was more than just a shopping trip. This was a moment of potential understanding, a chance to break down barriers to see beyond surface-level judgments. And Cristiano Ronaldo, the global football icon, stood at the center not as a celebrity, but simply as a human being seeking to be treated with basic dignity and respect. The next few moments would define not just this encounter, but potentially change perspectives about understanding, respect, and human connection. The store's back office felt small and cramped. Cristiano sat in a simple chair, his athletic frame seeming almost too large for the tiny space. But there was a calmness about him, the same composure that he'd shown on countless football fields around the world. The store manager pulled up another chair, looking genuinely concerned. This wasn't about damage control. This was about understanding. "I want to hear your story," Cristiano said softly. The words caught the manager off guard. Most people would demand an immediate apology, maybe threaten legal action. But here was a global icon asking to listen. The manager's clipboard rested forgotten on the desk. Something special was happening. A conversation that went far beyond a typical customer complaint. Cristiano began to share his journey, not the glamorous story of football victories, but the real story. Growing up in Madeira, a small island in Portugal, the son of a gardener and a cook, a kid who knew what it was like to be overlooked, to be told he was too small, too poor, too different. "I understand what it's like to feel like you don't belong," he explained, his voice soft but powerful. "But I learned that everyone has a story, everyone has struggles." The employee who had initiated the confrontation stood quietly in the corner. His earlier confidence had completely dissolved, replaced by a mixture of shame and growing understanding. Cristiano wasn't lecturing. He was connecting, sharing a human experience that transcended fame, nationality, or background. "When I was young," he continued, "people constantly told me what I couldn't do. That I was too small to play football, that I came from the wrong place, that I didn't fit in." His eyes held a depth of emotion that filled the small room. The manager listened, captivated. This wasn't just a conversation about a store incident. This was a masterclass in human understanding. "But someone believing in me changed everything," Cristiano said. "One person seeing my potential. That's all it takes sometimes." The employee shifted uncomfortably. The words were hitting differently now. This wasn't a celebrity talking down to him. This was someone who understood struggle, who knew what it was like to be misjudged. Cristiano spoke about his family's sacrifices, about his mother working multiple jobs, about his brothers and sisters supporting each other through tough times, about the power of seeing humanity in everyone. "We're all fighting our own battles," he said. "Some are visible, some are hidden." The store's fluorescent lights seemed to soften. The background noise of the busy Walmart faded away. In this small back office, something transformative was happening. The employee's defensive posture began to crumble. Tears welled up in his eyes, not from sadness, but from a deep recognition of shared human experience. "I'm sorry," the employee finally said, his voice breaking. "I didn't see you. I just saw a label." Cristiano smiled, not a smile of victory, but of genuine human connection. "We all make mistakes," he responded. "What matters is how we learn from them." The manager sat stunned. This wasn't a typical customer complaint resolution. This was a moment of genuine human transformation. Outside, the Walmart continued its usual rhythm. Shoppers moved between aisles. Cash registers beeped. But in this small back office, something extraordinary was unfolding. A global football icon was showing that true strength isn't about scoring goals or winning trophies. It's about seeing the humanity in others, about creating moments of understanding, about turning a potentially divisive moment into an opportunity for growth. As they prepared to leave the back office, something had changed, not just for the employee or the manager, but for everyone who would hear this story. A simple shopping trip had become a powerful lesson in empathy, respect, and human connection. The California sun was setting when Cristiano finally left the Walmart. His shopping cart was full, but it carried something more valuable than cleaning supplies, a moment of genuine human connection. Word travels fast in the digital age. Within hours, the story began to spread, not through sensationalism, but through a quiet, powerful narrative of understanding and empathy. The store's management team called an emergency meeting. What had started as a simple customer interaction had become a powerful learning moment. They didn't just see a potential PR issue, they saw an opportunity for real change. Training programs were developed. Discussions about unconscious bias became more than just corporate mandates. They became real conversations about human dignity. The employee who had initially confronted Cristiano began a journey of personal reflection. He started reading, learning, understanding. The encounter had changed him in ways he never expected. Cristiano could have used his platform to shame or attack. He could have made this a massive media story. Instead, he chose something far more powerful: quiet understanding. That evening, he called his mother back in Portugal. She had always been his moral compass, the person who taught him about seeing the humanity in everyone. Sometimes, she had always told him, the most important goals aren't scored on a football field. Her words rang true now more than ever. Social media began to buzz, but not in the way most celebrity stories spread. People were sharing messages of hope, of understanding, of seeing beyond surface-level differences. The Walmart became more than just a store. It became a symbol of potential transformation, a place where assumptions could be challenged, where human connections could happen in the most unexpected moments. Cristiano thought about his own journey, from a small island in Portugal to global stadiums, about the countless times he'd been judged, misunderstood, about the power of persistence, of seeing beyond immediate appearances. Local community leaders reached out. They wanted to understand how one simple interaction could create such a powerful moment of reflection. Schools began discussing the story in their diversity and inclusion programs. The employee who had initially confronted Cristiano reached out through the store management. He wanted to apologize personally, to share his own journey of understanding. Cristiano's response was simple. "We all have room to grow," he said. "What matters is that we keep trying." His charity foundation began developing new programs focusing on understanding, on breaking down barriers, not through grand gestures, but through simple human connections. The Walmart incident became more than just a story. It became a movement, a reminder that change happens not through grand speeches, but through genuine human interactions. As night fell, Cristiano reflected on the day. His shopping cart was full, but his heart was fuller. He had entered the store as a global football icon. He was leaving as something more important, a human being who had made a difference. The cleaning supplies would eventually be used and replaced, but the moment of understanding, that would last far longer. In the end, it wasn't about a famous footballer in a Walmart. It was about the power of seeing each other's humanity, about the simple yet profound idea that everyone deserves respect. One shopping trip, one moment of choice, a lifetime of impact.